We must begin by examining the silence itself. It is not the sound of failure. It is the sound of completion. You have built the life you intended to build. You established security. You created reliability. You removed the sharp corners of uncertainty that defined your younger years. And this achievement, this profound stability, is precisely where the trouble begins. The very goals that bring two people together, the quest for permanence and safety, are the same forces that, unmanaged, extinguish the flame of curiosity. When did the comfortable silence become the sound of parallel lives? It happens when we mistake familiarity for knowledge. You stop asking the essential questions because you believe you already know the answer. You stop observing the person next to you and start observing their function, the co-parent, the shared history, the logistical partner. This shift is subtle. It is the slow, quiet evaporation of aliveness. You may look at your partner and feel overwhelming affection, deep respect, and gratitude for everything they represent, yet still feel a terrifying absence. That absence is not a lack of love for them. It is a lack of connection to yourself through them. You have become too known, perhaps, or, more accurately, too assumed. In a long relationship, we often stop being the witness to our partner's evolution. We lock them into the identity they held 10 years ago, or even 5. We stop tracking the subtle shifts in their internal landscape, the new anxieties, the silent aspirations. And when you are no longer truly witnessed inside your own home, you begin to look for mirrors elsewhere. This is the point where many people experience the profound confusion of attraction to others. It is easy to label this desire as a deficiency in character, or a deficit in the marriage. But it is often something far more fundamental. It is a quest for emotional oxygen. When the relational space feels vast, predictable, and echoing, the energy of a stranger can feel like rescue. That magnetic pull toward an external connection is often misunderstood. It is rarely a search for a new person to replace the old one. It is a search for a lost self. You are looking for the part of you that felt spontaneous, that felt seen freshly, the self that the weight of routine and responsibility has temporarily buried. Some authors explain that we do not necessarily cheat because we are unhappy, but because we are looking for a place where we feel more real, more vital. This search for vitality is a deep human hunger. It is the need to feel the edge of your own existence again. The attraction you feel to a stranger is often just the unexpressed energy you need to bring back home. But this drift, this emptiness, is experienced differently by men and women, based on the expectations that stability imposes. The architecture of a long marriage places unique, often unspoken, demands on both partners, and when those demands are unmet, the retreat begins. For many women, the emptiness stems from the cessation of emotional curiosity. They feel the loss of the detailed conversation. They feel the absence of the partner who tracked their internal movements. They stop feeling known. They feel a profound sense of loneliness, a loneliness born not of solitude, but of being emotionally invisible right next to the person who should see them best. The complaint is rarely about the dishes. It is about the lack of shared meaning. It is about the partner who has retreated into functional silence. For many men, the retreat is often a reaction to perceived criticism or demand. They equate stability with the absence of conflict. They confuse the absence of nagging with the presence of satisfaction. They enter the marriage believing their primary role is to provide security and solve problems. When the partner presents an emotional issue, they often attempt to fix it, or, failing that, they withdraw, interpreting the emotional complexity as a form of personal failure or inadequacy. He goes quiet to feel safe from criticism. She feels abandoned because he is quiet. This creates a deadly loop. One pursues connection, the other retreats into solitude. The more she chases, the more he runs. The more he runs, the more she feels the need to pursue. This pursuit is not desire. This pursuit is neediness. We must understand the difference between desire and dependency. Long-term coupling often collapses desire into mutual neediness. You need the stability, the shared history, the logistical support, the comfort. That is dependency. It is functional, but it is not erotic. Desire, true desire, requires a degree of distance. It needs mystery. It needs the recognition that your partner is fundamentally an other, a separate, unknowable entity. When you become too fused, too familiar, too certain of the other person's movements and thoughts, the space for desire disappears. You have to reintroduce the space between you, the air that allows curiosity to flourish. The comfortable silence became the sound of parallel lives when you stopped acknowledging the otherness of the person sleeping beside you. You stopped treating them like the mystery they are, and started treating them like the certainty they have become. This certainty you have built is the very thing that paralyzes desire. You cannot truly desire what you feel you possess entirely. You cannot chase what is already fixed in place. The comfortable silence became the sound of parallel lives when the two identities fused into one functional unit. You stopped seeing two separate individuals navigating the world, and started seeing a single, predictable system. The way to adjust this architecture is not through grand gestures or unrealistic promises of eternal passion. It is through the quiet, consistent act of cultivating separateness. You must reintroduce the air between you. The search for vitality that drives many people away is often a desperate need to reclaim the parts of themselves that they surrendered to the relationship's stability. If you want to bring that energy back home, you must first give yourself permission to pursue interests, thoughts, and even friendships that exist outside of the shared relational container. You must become, in some ways, slightly less accessible. This is not about playing games. This is about psychological honesty. When you cultivate a space where your partner cannot follow, you return to the shared space carrying the fresh oxygen of your own existence. You are no longer just the predictable functionary. You become, once more, a source of curiosity. This distance is not abandonment. It is the precondition for desire. Some studies show that the strongest predictor of long-term relational vitality is not shared hobbies, but the capacity for each partner to maintain a robust, independent internal life. When you are less dependent on your partner to define your worth or fulfill your identity, you appear less needy and infinitely more interesting. When neediness retreats, desire has room to breathe. For the woman who feels invisible, this means reclaiming the intellectual or creative pursuit that was sacrificed to the role of co-parent or organizer. She must stop waiting to be seen by the partner, and start intensely seeing herself. For the man who has retreated into silence, this means accepting that emotional complexity is not a problem to be solved, but a landscape to be explored. He must risk being vulnerable without attempting to fix the outcome, simply to bear witness to the movement of his partner's interior life. This requires a new form of courage. It is the courage to ask the questions that have consequences. Not, "How was your day?" but, "What are you secretly afraid of right now?" It is the courage to tolerate the ambiguity of your partner's evolution, to accept that they are not a finished product, and neither are you. You must grant the person next to you the dignity of their own otherness. This is where the work becomes profound. You are moving past the fantasy of fusion, the idea that two people can become one, and moving toward a mature connection that honors the paradox of long love, that we must be deeply connected while remaining fundamentally separate. The parallel lives you are living are not a disaster. They are a phase. The goal is not to eliminate the parallel structure, which provides necessary comfort and stability. The goal is to ensure those lines occasionally intersect with tension, curiosity, and genuine, vibrant friction. You are not aiming to return to the spontaneous passion of your youth. That is a myth. You are aiming for a deeper, more complex passion, a passion that is earned through the willingness to re-witness the person you thought you knew, and to discover that you were beautifully, fundamentally wrong about them. The comfortable silence ends when you stop observing their function and start observing their soul. It ends when you accept that true love is the willingness to live with both profound certainty and persistent mystery. You committed to the stability, now you must commit to the risk. This is the only way the sound of parallel lives transforms back into the sound of two separate beings choosing to meet, freshly, in the center. Every single day.